Hey, what's up? Welcome to IconCityNews, your destination for the latest and inclusive current events. Alrighty, so I'm really excited to share this interview with you all with California Congresswoman Karen Bass. Before I do, I just want to throw out two quick disclaimers. The first one being that, yes, I am a performer. Yes, I've interviewed people before, but I was genuinely nervous this time. So you might hear a little bit of that in my voice, but just let me tell you a little bit why I was so nervous. It's because, she is a person deserving of respect. Not only was she the first black woman to be selected as Speaker of the House for the California State Legislature. She also gained additional, I think, a national profile when she was discovered to be on President Joe Biden's shortlist for vice president. Secondly, you're probably wondering, how did I get this interview? Well, it is through a partnership with an academic institution. So no, Representative Bass did not just, show up and be like, oh my God, I can't wait to speak to Icon City News. But we have the interview. So here it goes. So I'm very, very excited to speak with you. I've lived in your district. And so you're just really inspirational. I wanted to piggyback a little bit on what your conversation with Ellis. We appreciate your leadership on criminal justice reform. Can you tell us how to best engage on the federal level to get bills passed? And now that the last criminal justice reform bill has passed, what happens next?
Are you referring to the George Floyd bill or another bill? The George Floyd bill?
Yes.
Yeah. So technically, my work is supposed to be done because we got it passed out of the House. However, I am deeply involved in the negotiations. Well, actually, informal talks. I'm not supposed to call them negotiations. Informal talks that are happening with predominantly Republican members to get them to see the need for significant police reform. So we'll see how that's gonna work out. I am hopeful, but the events that just happened today in Georgia really sent, and I imagine you may or may not know, because the bill is being passed right now as we speak. It hasn't made it to the governor's desk, but it's essentially gonna throw us back to the 1960s in terms of voter suppression. And so what very well might happen in the Senate is that we don't have a choice over the filibuster. I mean, this is critical. If we can't get people elected in a democratic way, meaning every person has a right to vote, then everything kind of, stops. So it's an existential threat to our country to have such severe voter suppression laws. And the reason I mentioned that is because I'm trying to come to a bipartisan deal on police reform. But if that doesn't happen and we change the filibuster, then, hey, we might just have to pass it the way it is.
Okay, thank you so much for that insight into how things work inside the Beltway. Quick little story. I have an American flag outside of my house. I have peers of all peers, people older than me, people younger than me, perplexed as to why I, as a Black man, have an American flag hanging outside of my house. Like, I shouldn't do that. So my question, because I really admire the way that you're pragmatically progressive, and so what advice would you give to students who are working to make a difference in their communities?
Well, first of all, I am pragmatic because I want to get something done. I spent most of my life, I like that big flag. I spent most of my life outside of office as an activist. When you're an activist, you don't necessarily have to focus so much on the end game. You can just focus on the pressure game. But when you're inside, again, if you want to deliver for the community, you got to figure out what it is that you want to get done.
Well, thank you so much for that. You will definitely, it's on this name right here, you will definitely see my name coming as an applicant. On behalf of all the students at LACCD, I want to thank you so much for taking the time, from your busy schedule, all the change that you're affecting for us in DC. I really, really, we all really, really appreciate it. Again, I just want to thank Congresswoman Bass for taking that time, and kind of getting into a little bit of the weeds. So now that we have my first interview of a elected official out the way, I think that it is time to do a little dreaming, a little wishing. So here's my wish list for other change makers, activists, office holders that I'd like to see here on Icon City News, if possible. All right. So if you know them, reach out to them. Now, this list isn't in any particular order, but first, I would say I'd love to speak with Khalid Kamal. Khalid Kamal is a city councilman and mayoral candidate in the city of South Fulton, which is a relatively new municipality outside of Atlanta. I just really think that everything that they're doing down there is very interesting, and would love to learn more about how activism, how they're activating and organizing through municipalities. So I think that's really cool. Second would be Senator Sharif Street out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. He's a state senator for the Pennsylvania legislature. I'd like to talk to him about what he's doing with marijuana law reform and criminal justice reform. Obviously Pennsylvania is a home state of mine, so some of the political policies there are the whole reason why I left in the first place, and so or why I haven't returned in a meaningful way. So it would be great, to kind of hear from him what he sees the future of Pennsylvania being for progressives, particularly those who support cannabis and criminal justice reform. And then last but certainly not least, I would love to speak with Senator Richie Torres. He is Congressman Richie Torres. Who knows what the future holds, but currently he is a freshman congressman for the state of New York. I believe his district is the Bronx. And he, along with Mondaire Jones, made history as the first black gay man to be elected to the U.S. Congress. So for different reasons, I would like to speak to those three men. So if you, like I said, if you know them, reach out and help me make it happen. Okay. But until then, for the latest in inclusive urban current events, keep it locked to IconCityNews.com.